Welcome to the talk Keeping Privacy Labels Honest. This was a collaboration between Malte Wessels, Benjamin Altpeter, Madita Olvermann, Martin Jons, and me, Simon Koch. In the end of 2020, Apple introduced privacy labels. Privacy labels are a self-declaration by app developers concerning the data an app collects while you, as the user, are using the app. If you have a look at the App Store page of an app, here as an example, the App Store app of Candy Crush, you see below the ratings and reviews a section called App Privacy. The App Privacy section visualizes the data declared in the privacy label by the app developer. However, this is only the course overview, and if you click on details, you actually get a full overview. And as you can see, privacy labels potentially contain a lot of information concerning data that is collected from you, the user, while you're using the app. So what data is actually collected by an app and told by the privacy labels? Well, privacy label can tell you this. It tells you how, why, and what data is collected. The how explained how the data is later on used. The why details the purpose, and the what actually details the data is collected. So on the how, you can, for example, have data is not collected, meaning that the app will not collect any data while you're using it. The privacy label can have a section on data that is used to track you. This data will later on be linked up with third-party data. Next, you can have a section containing data that is not linked to you, meaning that all data that is contained in this section must not be linked back to your identity later on. Finally, you can have a section on data linked to you. This means that all the data contained in this section can and will be linked back to your identity when collected. So overall, we have 4 different how on how data can be collected as detailed in the privacy labels. Of those 4, 3 can be combined. Data not linked to you, data used to track you, and data linked to you. Data not collected is mutually exclusive with the remaining 3. Next, we have the why, the purpose on why data is collected. And as an example, we have a look at the section detailing data collected not linked to you. And the purposes are listed in bold below. First, we have third-party advertising. Then we have developers, advertising or marketing. And finally, we have analytics. Only the sections data not linked to you and data linked to you actually contain purposes. The section data used to track you already contains the purpose in the how. Overall, there are 6 different purposes: third-party advertising, developers advertising, analytics, product personalization, app functionality, and other purposes. Next, we have the what data is collected. And again, coming back to our section on data not linked to you, the what data is collected is listed below each purpose. For the purpose of third-party advertising, we have identifiers and usage data, the same for developers advertising or marketing, and again the same for analytics with the addition of diagnostics data. What data is collected is detailed by all 3 data collection sections: data not linked to you, data linked to you, and data used to track you. Remember, no data collection is mutually exclusive with those 3 and details that no data is collected at all. Overall, there are 14 different data types that can be collected: contact info, health and fitness, financial info, location, sensitive info, contacts, user content, browsing history, search history, identifiers, purchases, usage data, diagnostics, and other data. Now that we have detailed the vast amount of information contained in a privacy label, we come to our research questions, of which we had 3. Our first question was, are privacy labels reasonable? What we mean by this is, can we understand what data is actually collected when looking at the privacy labels, and does this make sense? And overall, for the most part, the answer is yes. However, when we had a look, for example, at the section of data not linked to you, we saw that some apps claim that they collect identifiers for example the user ID or the device ID, as data not linked to you, which we consider to be an inconsistency, as we cannot really explain how this is supposed to be possible, as those identifiers are your identity in the context of data collection on a smartphone. Second question we wanted to answer was, are there collection patterns? For this, we downloaded a large amount of different privacy labels and run this explorative statistical analysis. And the answer is yes, we can detect collection patterns. For example, we had a look at different app categories, for example gaming, and looked how they collect data differently than the remaining apps. Here you can see that game apps, for example, really like to collect data for tracking you or link to you, and do not like to collect data not at all or unlinked to you. If we had a look at the data types that are collected by game apps, you can see that gameplay content is the leading data type, which is not really surprising considering you're looking at gaming apps. However, the next two, advertising data and purchase history, are somewhat surprising, but do fit in the stereotype of game apps. We did not only look at different app categories, but also on what data is collected how. And for example, here we had a look at what data is collected not linked to you. And you can see the three main types are crash data, performance data, and other diagnostics data. This does make sense, as neither of the data points requires to be linked to the user to be actually valuable. And if you have a look at the bottom, you can see the data types not popular to be collected, not linked to you, which are email address, user ID, name, or phone number, which also makes sense, as those are inherently linked to you and cannot reasonably be collected, not linked to you. Our third and last question was, are privacy labels actually enforced? And for this, we downloaded apps from the app stores, leveraged Frida to install and start those apps on an iPhone, and then intercepted the traffic for 60 seconds by running the app without any further interaction. We then searched that traffic for data points listed or rather not listed in a privacy label. And the answer is no. Privacy labels are not enforced, at least not strictly. For example, we had a look at location data. We ran the apps and then searched the traffic for location information. And we had, for example, 440 apps that claimed in their privacy label that they were not collecting any location data. However, in 27 of those apps, we detected location data in the transmitted traffic. Even worse, we had 168 apps that claimed they do not collect any data at all, and 8 of those contained location data in their traffic. Overall, we checked 1,687 different apps, and 16% of those transmitted undeclared data. So, to summarize, privacy labels are for the most part reasonable, but do contain some inconsistencies that need further explanation. Privacy labels reveal collection patterns when analyzed statistically. Finally, privacy labels are not strictly enforced. For each of those research questions, I gave you some examples. However, if you go in our paper, each section concerning those questions is more detailed, and of course we did run way more analysis and detail than those. Now to the end, we want to acknowledge our funding by the European Union Horizon 2020 Research Grant and the DFG. Finally, if you want to contact me concerning our research or have any further questions, please feel free to either email me or add me on Matrix. Furthermore, we uploaded our artifacts on GitHub. Our GitHub org for the paper contains not only the privacy labels we downloaded, but also our source code to analyze the privacy labels and run our statistical analysis. I hope this data can provide useful information and useful tools for future researchers. Thank you very much for your attention.